The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at coolstuffinc.com. The Dice Tower, episode 520.
Ridiculous.
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, Tom and I are joined by Marie Poole from Lone Shark Games to discuss some recent games played, present a tale of betrayal that leads to memories of getting lectured in a game session, and answer a bunch of questions from the mailbag. Plus, Jeff has some rapid-fire topics for us, and we get ridiculous with our top 10 ridiculous components in board games. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the Bozo the Clown of board gaming, Tom Vassell.
Eric, what?
You were looking for something ridiculous, so I decided you were Bozo the Clown today. Congratulations.
I'll have you know that Bozo the Clown is a respected clown. In the 1960s,
he is.
He was the most respected clown in America.
Sure, and in many cases, he's very tall.
He's better than being the clown from It.
Well, oh man, don't get me started. Those trailers are freaking me out. I have no intention of seeing that movie.
Well, stop watching them.
I can't look away.
All right. Well, anyway, folks, we're not here to talk about stupid horror movies. We're here to talk about board games. My name's Tom Vassell.
Hi there, I'm Eric Summerer.
And before we go any farther, folks, if for some reason you did not listen to our live show, or even if you did listen to our live show from GenCon, apparently I was somewhat confusing in how I made my announcement. Eric
yes,
says,
a lot of people thought we were retiring.
Eric said I wasn't confusing, so I trust his judgment, but still. Okay, so you're still going to hear me and Eric and a guest, who we'll introduce in a moment, every other episode. And Eric and I will also be recording live via YouTube on an unspecified date and time. In fact,
we're still working on that.
I wouldn't be surprised, folks, if the time that we do that fluctuates as time goes by, just because we can. And anyway, we'll talk more about that later. And then the alternate one will be Suzanne and Mandy. And if you listened to episode 519, you heard their first episode, and they'll be back in episode 521. So they're odd.
They're obviously having fun already.
And we're even. But that being said, we're going to start out here by introducing our guest for this episode. Welcome to the show, Marie Poole.
Hi.
Now, Marie, for people who may not know who you are, and in fact I found out to my chagrin that my video co-host did not know who you were, could you tell our guests a little bit about yourself and how you're involved in gaming?
Absolutely. Well, I am from Seattle. I've been a gamer my whole life. I am currently the Chief Business Officer of Lone Shark Games, and we are the maker of such titles as Pathfinder Adventure Card Game and Betrayal at House on the Hill Widow's Walk expansion, and most recently Apocrypha Adventure Card Game. I am also the Vice President of the Game Manufacturers Association, and I just am here because I love games.
Now, this Vice President of Gamma thing just happened recently, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I was elected in June at the Origins.
So that's really exciting. You know, this is a whole new thing for you. You got to, you went right from that to coming down and visiting us at Dice Tower Con.
That's right.
You got to take a tour of the Cool Stuff warehouse, and then you went right to GenCon. It's been a really crazy month.
Actually, you're skipping China and Minneapolis for the Apocrypha fulfillment.
Whoa.
Yeah, you're right. I did skip a couple countries there, apparently. Eric, I'm feeling more tired. I thought we had a busy schedule.
Yeah, no, this is quite the feat. I recently received Apocrypha in the mail. I backed it on Kickstarter, and this also debuted at GenCon. And opening the box in this game, it's almost overwhelming. There's so much stuff in there. How do you think people should start when they first open this box?
Well, I think you should take a moment to really reflect and appreciate the care and design of the inside of that box, because that is where I get my creative juju out.
Yeah.
Get to make the inside of the box. So, but then you should open the Enter Here deck.
Yes, this is there's a wrapped package of cards that say, don't open up any other cards. So I had planned let's sort all the cards. I opened it up and I was getting ready to sort everything. And then there's this deck that says, don't open anything but this, which I had never seen before in this type of card game.
Yeah, apparently neither had the printer. So, well, what you do is you open the deck, and you just play. Also, a playthrough video that walks you through the Enter Here deck. But the idea is to get you sort of oriented with the game, because we recognize it can actually be quite overwhelming.
Excellent. I will have to enter here next time I have the opportunity.
That's right.
All right. Well, this is one of the games I missed at GenCon. I thought I saw the box once, and I remember looking at it before GenCon. Oh well.
How did that happen? How did I not give you a copy of my game?
Well, I think this is a fair thing because, leading into a little bit of discussion on GenCon, GenCon was quite busy this year. Now,
it was.
I do feel they've obscured their numbers when they announced them. They said there was approximately 60,000 people there, which makes me feel like there might be slightly less.
Right, that actually is going down, but it was spread out more. Like, we usually have this ebb and flow at Gen Con, where, like, Thursday's big because everyone's rushing for the new releases, and then it sort of lulls a little on Friday, and then picks up again on Saturday, and then lulls and sort of tapers off on Sunday. But it felt like every day was Saturday this time, because they sold out every day, so they sort of spread out the attendees. Did you get that feeling?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a little bit less crowded the last hour of Sunday. That was it.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that was our experience as well. We were busy pretty much the whole show. And then actually I got more booth time this year because I actually scheduled some time for a drop by. But usually I'm not to be seen on the floor and only get a couple of hours, if that, to see what's out, because I'm so taking meetings and things.
Yeah, well, we're going to go into more detail about Gen Con later. But, man, it was great, and we want to thank you, everyone who came by and saw us there. But we really, really should talk about some games. I feel like it's been a while since I've gotten into games. It's only been a couple weeks, but there are so many great games. And I'm going to start out by talking about one that really I've enjoyed called Whitehall. Now, this is a sequel from Fantasy Flight. This is the sequel to Letters from Whitechapel. In Letters of Whitechapel, one person's playing Jack the Ripper. Everyone else is trying to hunt him down. Jack the Ripper is going to murder someone each night and then go back to his lair. You are going to try to figure out where this lair is so you can catch him. Whitehall is a lot simpler. The person playing Mr. Jack, who is accomplishing missions. This game really tones down on the dark theme of Letters from Whitechapel. It's kind of there, but it's in the background. This could be anybody. And so the board looks a little bit like the same board, map of London, almost Scotland Yard-ishy. And the person playing Mr. Jack picks 4 spots that are in the 4 quadrants of the board. And he's going to start at one. Everyone knows where he starts. And then moves to the other 3. He has 15 turns to get to the next spot, then 15 turns to get to the next spot. Meanwhile, everyone's trying to find him. There's up to 3 people chasing him down, and they're moving on black squares between the different spots he's moving on to. And if they ever say, I arrest at this spot, and they catch him, he's caught. Now, in Letters of Whitechapel, Mr. Jack, you have to really be good to catch him. In this game, Mr. Jack has to be good because they are really hunting him down. I felt threatened from the very beginning of the game. I was nervous. I was sweating. I mean, having Jason on the other side doesn't help. The first game I played of this was just like, wah! And I almost got away, but they caught me. And it feels like Scotland Yard more so than Letters from Whitechapel. And I really like it. I like that it's a closer, simple, just hunt and catch someone. This is a 45-minute game. And that's a nice change, because Letters from Whitechapel could go to 2 hours. And it also was really thinky, like, where could he be? But Whitehall, you just say, well, he could be in these 4 locations, and then he could have gone to these 4. So it's not like there's a lot of options each turn, and you're trying to figure out which way he went, but it's not like mind-numbingly difficult, which Letters from Whitechapel could have been at certain times.
Okay.
So I really like this one. That's Whitehall.
Well, first up for me is a Jeff Engelstein game that debuted at GenCon. It's called The Expanse. It's published by WizKids. And this made our list of anticipated games at the show. I have not seen the Expanse TV show, so I don't really have that reference point. But still, this is like an area control game. You're earning points for controlling various planets, and I guess they call them, there's orbits. So some orbits, like an Earth orbit, may have multiple locations that can be ruled. Mars has a couple, and then there's an asteroid belt, and then there's Jupiter, and there's Saturn. And so all these locations that can be taken over and have influence placed on them. And you start based on which faction you are. You start with a certain number of cubes on the board. Most of this is taken care of with these action cards, which show up in a card row, and they have either a number of actions on them or some sort of effect, which can be triggered by not all of the factions most of the time, but only some of them. So on your turn, you'll choose one of these cards. The first one's free. The others will cost you some of your points in order to activate them. And you'll either activate the action or you'll take the points. If you take the points, which you can spread around doing all sorts of stuff, moving your ships around the board, placing influence cubes, all sorts of cool stuff. If you do it for the action points, somebody else gets to do the action. And you go down the list on sort of an initiative track and say, hey, do you want to do this action? Do you want to do this action? If they do, they move to the bottom of an initiative track. So they'll get last choice in the future, but these are all very powerful actions. So you have to weigh all of these cards. Do I do the action or do I take the more versatile action points, but then give somebody else some other cool action too? It has a lot of connections to Twilight Struggle, sort of a multiplayer Twilight Struggle. I enjoyed it. Also, the scoring is triggered by these cards as well. You actually have to take a scoring card from the scoring row, and it triggers scoring. But whoever takes that scoring card can make some of the planets worth more points, a little bit more of a favorable distribution of first, second, third place points. So being the one to choose it, even though you've lost a turn, is important and useful. I enjoyed it. It is very solid mechanically. It is, however, one of these games you have to stand up and stare at the cards, and you can't do a whole lot of pre-planning until it's very close to your turn, because the board state can change so much. So it took a lot longer than it said on the box for us. I think this was maybe a 3-hour game for us, and it says like 45 to 60, which I'm not sure how we can get it that low. Still, impressed with The Expanse from Jeff Engelstein and WizKids.
Now, I have heard from other people that this game is a 45-minute game, so I'm going to try to pinpoint the problem here. It's you. Come on, 3 hours on a 45-minute game.
I was not the only one taking time. You have to read what all the cards do and figure out whether it benefits you or not, and you can't see the cards until they're there. I'm not sure how you can get this to be a 45-minute game, unless you've memorized the cards.
All right. Well, I haven't played it yet, so I can't criticize too greatly, but I'm just prepping myself for when I do criticize you in the future after I've played it.
I'm laying the groundwork. I get it.
I just feel that might happen.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I haven't even seen the game, and I'm tempted.
Oh, good.
I'm tempted to criticize.
Wow, she's welcome back any time now.
No, I mean, I feel like there are some games where people can get really stuck in analysis paralysis, and maybe part of the game is to just think on your feet and make the best decision you can in 30 seconds or less.
I guess if there was a timer, I'd have to do that.
That's fair. That's fair. It is a good show, by the way. I have watched it, so I'm really looking forward to picking that up. And Jeff Engelstein is one of my friends, so I'd like to see his game. So I played Dice Forge, and I know you just recently had an episode where you really went into detail on this game, so I'll just sort of do a quick overview and then tell you what I liked about it. It's a resource management and worker placement game, and this incredibly neat mechanic of changing the face of your dice, which I actually found myself staring at the dice and making sure that like the surfaces were perfectly flat, so there would be exact, roll precision.
Right. Yeah.
And I kept rolling to see like, is one face going to show up more often than another? Did my own little research project while other people were taking their turn, which probably annoyed them in hindsight.
Yeah, I'm sure they loved that.
It was a really fun game, though, and I played with a group of strangers as I mentioned earlier, I was in Minneapolis, and I just went to the local game store, and I picked up a game, and some people invited me to play, and it was really a lot of fun. I found it to be really interactive, although I could see how if you play with people you don't know, it could be one of those solitary games where you're just really looking at your thing and trying to get the best strategy to win. My experience was that it was very interactive, and a lot of people talking about what you can do. You can bump people from the different areas, which I thought was a fairly neat mechanic to prevent that paralysis that can happen, or I should say solitude that can happen, where you don't really have a chance to interact with anybody. So it was a good game. I enjoyed it.
I want to ask about the physicality of the dice here. You've got these pop-off faces that go on. Have you played Rattlebones as well, Marie?
I have not played that.
I know Rattlebones came with a tool for actually prying off the faces of the dice. Is that something that's necessary with Dice Forge?
They say that the corner of each of the plates can actually be used to pop it off. So you take one of the other plates and you flip it over and pop it off.
How efficient.
Well, I don't know what it is, but this game just keeps popping itself back into my lineup. I'm really enjoying this one, loving the physicality of the dice. I don't know that this will make my top 10 of the year, but it might make my top 10 played games of the year.
All right, this is one I have to add to the purchase list next time I make an order, I guess.
Okay, well, now it's time for all of us. We're going to pick a very long game to talk about. So, except Eric.
Sure.
So I'll start. Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. This was a surprise reveal from Fantasy Flight a few days before GenCon. And then even more of a surprise, it was at GenCon. And even less of a surprise, Sam got a copy. And shockingly, we played it. So Twilight Imperium 4 is essentially Twilight Imperium 3.5. That doesn't sound as good on the copy, though. But really, if you've played Twilight Imperium 3, and I played with everyone who already knew how to play the game, you don't have to learn a lot. It's basically, what are the differences? Way back in the day, the jump from Twilight Imperium 2 to Twilight Imperium 3 was just immense. It was almost a completely different game. It is pretty much the same game now, but they've streamlined some things. Essentially, they streamlined technology, they streamlined politics, and they've streamlined a few other of these smaller actions that you can take. The combat is almost identical, and a lot of it looks the same, although the components, especially the pieces, are much better. Although, incidentally, they have a War Sun, which is their version of the Death Star, and it was one of the worst pieces that you could step on. I mean, it was like, it would kill you if you stepped on it, I think. They've made it even more dangerous to step on.
Ooh, more pointy.
This fits the theme of this episode, I guess. It's pointy on both sides now. So, it used to, if it rolled over and you stepped on it, you'd be like, ow, that hurts. But at least I didn't step on the pointy end. Now you're going to get nailed no matter how you step on it. I don't know why I spend so much time talking about that aspect of the game. It just fascinates me. But the plastic pieces are nicer. They don't come on sprues like the Twilight Imperium 3. They did. You have to twist them off the sprues. And shockingly, of all shockers, and this is the first time I think I've seen this in a only Fantasy Flight game, like not a partner with somebody else, the insert was plastic.
What?
There was a plastic molded insert in a Fantasy Flight game. I know. We thought maybe it was a mistake and that someone had made it and stuck it in there. But no. That might justify the $150 price tag. It is a pricey game.
Yeah, and those things do cost something to make.
But I mean, if you're going to play this game, that's worth it, right? Because you play it once, 8 hours. You play it twice, 8 hours. You've got your money back in spades, They have a lot of the stuff from the expansions of Twilight Imperium 3 in it. They have 17 different races that you can play, flagships, and racial technologies in this game. But they also kept a lot of the stuff from the expansions out. Now, I highly doubt Fantasy Flight would ever publish an expansion to this game. But if they did, it feels like they're already ready for that. Pretty neat, though. If you like Twilight Imperium 3, you'll like this one. If you don't like Twilight Imperium 3, this is not going to change your mind. It's just a better version, Twilight Imperium 4. And now I'm going to have to try to say TI4 for the rest of my life. And I'm going to call it TI3 for a long
TI5.
time, I think. But no more TIs. We're done.
So if you are upgrading from 3, if you're familiar with TI3, is it relatively easy to internalize the changes, or is it one of those things that you're going to keep going, oh, no, this is the way we do this now. Okay, this has changed now. Oh, this is the same. Oh, this is different, though. This is only slightly different. Do they give you
I don't think so at all. I think that the differences are really obvious. For example, technology used to have very specific prerequisites. Like if you want to build massive space lasers, you need to have small space lasers and super diodes. I can't remember the names of the technology. It was like that. Now it's, do you want to build this technology? You need 2 green technologies and a red technology.
Oh, okay.
And when you build a technology that upgrades a ship, the technology itself is a little card that you put on your sheet that just shows the ship's new stats. Very, very handy. The technology is so much better. I don't need this extra paper tech tree that I'm looking at and puzzling over when it's not my turn.
All right. Playtime about the same or a little less?
I don't think playtime has changed one bit. I think it's exactly the same play length, around 6 to 8 hours. I know it says, the difference is that they're actually saying it on the box. I think it says like 4 to 6 hours in the box. They're admitting the truth. All right, Eric, it's time for your long game.
Yes, it's the Goonies Adventure Card Game. This is not a very long game at all. Certainly under an hour for this one. This is a cooperative card game by Matt Riddle and Ben Pinchback, published by Albino Dragon. It is a quest to find One-Eyed Willie's gold. And in order to do this, you have to open up the path to the treasure, which is turning in triplets of different symbols. You're collecting cards and using these cards to do stuff. And the cards have different symbols on them. And so you have to map your path by turning in sets of cards, which opens up slots so that you can find the treasure. And then you find the treasure in 5 locations on the board. There's the restaurant, and there's the water slide, and the pirate ship. And these locations will be given obstacles. Also the primary cards in the game, that you have to discard certain combinations of symbols to clear. Once those are cleared, you can then search a stack of tokens, tiles, and one of those tiles is a gem, is a piece of the treasure. And you have to, but others are booby traps that cause bad things to happen, and you don't want those. But you can't search them until you get rid of all of the obstacles that are in front of that location. Once you've found all 5 treasures in all 5 locations and had the slots to put them in, that's how you win. Everybody gets to take actions at the same time. It's truly a cooperative thing. Each round you get 4 actions. You can move the Goonies around to different locations. You can clear obstacles. You can search for treasure. You can get rid of nasty cards. There are these event cards, and if you get 5 Fratelli events, they're the bad guys, you'll lose, so you can clear those by playing triplets of cards. But you can work together by combining them and really sort of combine your actions, really work as a team to do this. At the end of a round, you then draw, everybody gets some cards, and then you draw events or obstacles to go on these locations. And those can escalate by causing you to draw more cards or draw event cards, which can be either good or bad. And then you start another round. If you ever have 5 obstacles in front of a particular location, you'll lose. If you have 5 Fratelli cards, you'll lose. While I appreciated it, I don't think I enjoyed this as much as I was hoping to. This didn't give me a sense of playing out.
I love your kindness.
I know. I didn't feel like I was playing the Goonies. This felt a little too mechanical for me. I also didn't like the fact that you could lose on turn 1. You could clear a couple things, take your 4 actions, and then if you get enough escalate cards off the top of the deck and it fills up a location, you're done. And so I didn't feel like I was in as much control as I would like in the whole system. It's got images from the movie. If you're feeling particularly nostalgic, you can certainly relive those things. It's got a nice little meeple with all of the, the guys being led by the big dude, Superman. I forget his name. And so if you're really feeling nostalgic, that has that, but it just doesn't connect to the theme as well as I'd like. It just felt a little random. So I can't really recommend the Goonies Adventure Card Game.
Well, okay. Eric brought us down. Marie, tell us that you have a good game to talk about.
Well, again, I think I'm talking about something that you have talked about before, but that sort of tells you about my life. It's hard for me to get to a game when it's first out.
Now, it's okay to talk about games more than once anyway. Who cares?
Yeah, well, good. So I played Colony, which I guess I would say it's pretty much, to me, Dominion, but you have dice instead of cards to buy other cards with. And it's a tableau building as opposed to a deck building.
Okay, this explains my confusion about the long games. For some reason, I thought you were talking about colonists.
No, this is the Bezier Games Ted Alspach game.
Yeah, that's right. Bezier Games. I probably should have been more specific.
No sense, Eric. I apologize.
I was wondering. I was like, do I need to stretch this conversation? Because what's more to say besides, Dominion with dice and a tableau instead of your hand?
I'm trying
That's
too
pretty
hard.
much what it is. It's pretty much what it is. But I really love Dominion. I'm a huge fan of Dominion. My niece and I get together and we'll do a Dominion day. We'll bring all of our sets and we will just spend the whole day playing nothing but Dominion. We have a blast doing it. It's a nice, it's a nice just sort of reset, back to the basics, deck builder, and I enjoy that game very much. So Colony adds a little bit more to that process. And so again, I had a great time. I played it with the same people that I was with for Dice Forge, and I really enjoyed it. I did find this game, like Dominion, is a lot more solitary. You're really focused on what you're doing. You are sort of watching other people's tableaus, but there isn't a whole lot you can do to each other. It's fairly solo, but again, I really enjoy that type of a game when the mood is right. So those are the games I've played. I actually did not play a single game at GenCon. I sat through like 3 demos and kept thinking, "Oh, am I going to get to play?" And then I didn't get to play.
Oh no.
They were like, "If you want to play this game, go over to Hall C." So.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
That's the secret to getting on your good side at GenCon is actually let you play a game after teaching it to you.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I also think that, just as a side note, sometimes it'd be nice if some of these demoers would actually let you do something while you're listening, because some of them will go on for like 20 minutes and you don't even get to roll the dice. And
really?
I'm one of those people that I need to be doing it to learn it. I can't just sit and listen.
Were these demos in the hall or something you were just getting presented?
No, demos in the hall.
Wow.
I think a lot of people don't know how to demo games, or they're brought in because the publisher's frantic. They need people to show off the game. They teach them the game that day, and maybe it's just me. I just think that most people can't teach games very well. A demoer has to teach the game as a salesman, essentially.
Yes.
Right. But at least give the player, the person you're talking to, some agency. Here are your 3 cards. Which do you want to play? Well, I don't know anything about the game. Just pick one. I'll show you what happens. At least make it an interaction.
Let me roll some dice. I love rolling dice.
Well, Eric, have you played this yet?
Colony, no, I haven't. I sort of missed it when it first released and haven't had an opportunity to sit in front of it.
I don't know. I like it, but just barely. It just feels like the game is almost moving without me.
Oh. Maybe it's the table you're using.
I wouldn't make fun of your joke, but so far at least it makes sense. I can't. What am I supposed to say here? All right. Let's hear a heartwarming thing.
Hello, I'm Skip Hampton, with yet another Tale of Betrayal. A number of years ago, late 80s or early 90s, I was at my parents' over a holiday, and a group of family members and friends decided to play some hearts. There was some trash talking, and as I was known to like games, gamer wasn't a thing yet. The fact that I was in last was pointed out a number of times. I was dealt a hand that had shooting potential, and I decided to take a chance. I was happy to see my mother had passed me 3 high hearts. I chuckled to myself that after my successful shoot, I would be able to point out that you never pass high hearts without also passing a low one, but that would come later. Play around the table started normally, as it took the other players a while before they figured out what I was up to. By that time it was clear that I would take all of the hearts, and the only thing left was to take the Queen of Spades, which I held in my hand. With only 2 cards left to play, it was clear that someone still had the Ace of Spades, so I was in trouble. After years of playing Cosmic, I decided I need to do a little metagaming and reminded the table that me shooting would merely put me back in the game and would harm them all equally. Their taking the Queen would take 13 points all by themselves. In fact, under the right circumstances, it could even lead to another player winning. Confident in the persuasiveness of my argument, I played the Queen. Play got around the table until it was my mother's turn, at which point she looked me in the eyes and said, "You know I can't let you shoot the moon," and played the ace. Okay, bye.
I love stuff like this. I love when you think someone doesn't know what they're doing, and then they play the right card at the right time.
I particularly like when I'll tell her, I'll inform her once I've won. That's a supervillain thing to think right there.
Well, it's almost like game splaining, right? Like, I will now tell you how this game is played.
Yep. Yes.
Have you ever done that, Eric?
Oh, boy. Thought I was going to win and had the rug pulled out from under me?
No, after you won a game, explain to people why you beat them.
Oh, no. No. I wouldn't do that.
But I think you might have to kids. When you're done with the game, you're like, okay, this is why look, if you had done this, you would have stopped me from doing this.
I guess with adult players, I've sometimes after a particularly interesting game and I managed to get the victory, we might discuss, I think it was this that may have won it for me, but it's more of at least I hope it's more of a discussion and not me going, what you really needed to do was get more of these things. I think it's more of a let's all discuss the game and figure out what worked for me and worked for you, and I was afraid that you were going to beat me here. I'm hoping it's a more friendly discussion and not me dictating why I won.
Have you ever been dictated to?
I don't think I have. How about you, Marie?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have. I'm not sure why it is, but when people first meet me, there's this assumption that I am sort of, a casual gamer maybe. I'm not sure. And I have been explained to it. And I often just sit and listen. And I have to admit that because I am a kinesthetic learner, it probably is accurate to assume that I don't know what I'm doing for the first half of the game.
Okay. But
then I usually at some point figure it out that people haven't figured out that I've figured it out. And usually I can kind of sneak in there. But up until that point, people are leaning over and they're explaining things to me. And, this is a die. It has 6 sides. You rolled this die. No, so not that bad. But
no.
Okay, that's actually true. Somebody did actually explain that to me once. But yeah, this is a die. Roll them. Okay, thanks. So I've had that happen, but I actually come from a family where we play games with the 3-year-old like we would play with the 30-year-old. We just, we don't play the same games, but our way of playing is we play to win. Mm-hmm. And we play for the experience and for the fun. and we sort of let the child decide how they want that experience to go. So I played with my niece a game, and I just kept playing. She was, 12 at the time. She kept playing, and I kept beating her. Finally, at the 5th game, she's like, all right, one more time, Auntie Marie, but this time you teach me how to win.
Ha.
And then I was like, sure, absolutely. But I would not explain it, because I feel like that actually can end up feeling a little worse unless someone asked me to. And I would never want to be the reason why somebody decided that gaming wasn't for them.
Yeah, excellent point. I like the idea of, waiting until somebody asks for that sort of feedback, because then you're receptive to it. It can be like the worst thing in the world if you're already upset about the loss to then have somebody sort of dictate why that happened.
Yeah, and it can be embarrassing. I think it's gotten a lot better, but there are times where I feel like, well, people play games for different reasons. I don't play to win. I play because I really enjoy it. It's immersive. It's an experience. Other people are playing to win. And I have found that the people who are really, really focused on wanting to win games don't tend to like to play with me as much, because I don't care if I win. I will win, but I don't care if I win.
Right.
For me, it's just I'm playing because it's fun, and I like the world that the designers are trying to create and the artists. And
I don't know if I can say amen loud enough to that. Yeah.
So.
Do you find that makes you more of an unpredictable player if you aren't just solely picking the most efficient, move to win at any given moment? You might do something more creative or something that looks fun in the game, and that throws off those competitive players?
I think that's probably true. I wouldn't say I win a whole lot, but I win a fair number of times. And the best experience I have with that is actually I played Texas Hold'em, and I played it twice. It was just some friends put together a tournament, and you pay in $15 and whatever, and you just play until you're out. And I just played, but I went twice and started with 60 people, and I was last man standing twice. And I've played Texas Hold'em twice.
Nice.
I just don't care. Maybe that's it. I don't care if I win, but it sure was fun watching people around the table. I mean, there were some people getting red-faced who didn't believe I've never played before, or I'd only played one other time.
That's awesome.
These are the situations I want to be at.
That in itself was fun. Sort of the psychological study of it was much more interesting to me than the actual gameplay.
And probably because you didn't care so much, you didn't really have any tells. You're just like, yeah, okay.
I paid $15 for an evening of entertainment. Heck, I can't get out of a movie theater for that. So.
Fantastic.
Well, speaking of psychological stuff, Jeff is here to give us some info.
3, 2, 1, go.
It's time for GameTech with Jeff Engelstein, where we find out how games really work.
Hey everybody, it was great to meet so many listeners at GenCon, and I hope that everyone had as much fun as I did. Now I've got 3 quick research results that I wanted to share with you this episode, a GameTech buffet, if you will. Now first, from the Sports Desk, a paper from Aaron Johnson, Alexander Stimson, and Torin Clark from MIT. The researchers wanted to figure out if they could find a trace of psychological momentum in American football. Specifically, they looked at the effect of big defensive plays like interceptions, fumble recoveries, and safeties, and then checked out the results of drives after those types of plays as opposed to drives after non-big plays. Now, many think that those types of plays result in a shift in psychology and create momentum. But the result of the study? There is no difference in drives after big plays and those after non-big plays. There's no sign of psychological momentum. There's actually been a lot of studies on psychological momentum, and most of them show no effect. The granddaddies of studies on this type of thing was done in 1985 as a statistical search for a hot hand in basketball. The study found that your chances of making a shot after you hit your last shot or missed your last shot were the same. There were no sign of streaks other than what would normally be predicted by random chance. Now, there actually was one study that showed a pretty big momentum effect in hockey. After a fight, of all things, more often than would be expected, shots on goal for a team involved in the fight would spike right afterwards. I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions from that. Now, next up, a neuroimaging study from Dominic de Corvain from the University of Zurich. He and his team wanted to look at what was going on in people's brains when they punished other people for breaking social norms. What parts of the brain were triggered? Now, to find the answer, they turned to a series of games that all had a similar setup. Two people were playing against each other. Player A was given a stack of money and could share it with Player B. If Player B wasn't happy with what they were given, they could punish Player A, and their brain was imaged. The researchers had people go through several varieties of the game, which was explained to the players. In one, punishment was symbolic only. In another, punishment actually deducted money from Player A, and in another, punishment took money from both players A and B, but more from A. And finally, there was a game where Player B was told that the choice of whether they would receive any money at all was being made by a computer, not a person. Now, in the case where players could cost Player A money without losing any themselves, a section of the brain called the striatum was activated. This part of the brain is strongly associated with rewards and pleasure. Mice will do a lot of crazy stuff if they think it will activate the striatum. So basically, we get pleasure and satisfaction from punishing someone we think that has wronged us. The anger and negative emotion centers of the brain were not activated, just the striatum. Now, in the case where punishment was symbolic, or really interestingly, when people would just think they were punishing a computer, there was no striatum activation. No pleasure was taken in those cases. Now, finally, in the case where players could punish, but they would lose something, not as much as the other player, but something, the striatum still activated, but also activating was part of the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in decision-making. In other words, the striatum is clamoring for punishment, but the prefrontal cortex has to think about it for a second and can put the brakes on it. But people who had stronger striatum activations were much more likely to punish in this case. The emotional part of their brain was better able to overcome the logical part. So revenge, in a sense, truly can be sweet. Now, one last one, which I think is pretty neat. Most of you should be familiar with the prisoner's dilemma, where people have to decide to trust or betray the other players. But for those of you that don't, here's a quick overview. If you both trust, you get the best outcome. But if you trust and your opponent betrays, it's really bad for you and good for them. If you both betray, it's bad for both of you, but not super bad. Now, this game has been tremendously studied, and there's a lot of data about how people typically play under different circumstances. But experimenters Varda Lieberman from Israel, Stephen Samuels from the U.S. Air Force Academy, and Lee Ross from Stanford had a different take on this. They had a bunch of people play the Prisoner's Dilemma game, but half of them were told they were playing something called the Wall Street game, and half of them were told they were playing the Community game. Exact same games, just different names. And sure enough, those who were playing the Wall Street game were way more likely to select betray than those who were playing the Community game. Now, this is a nice echo of the talk that I gave at the GenCon Dice Tower live show about framing. People, the words that you choose and the ideas that you put forward to the players are going to impact their players. So as a designer, you have to think about the graphics, the theme, the name. All of these things are going to put players into a certain frame of mind, which may make them more or less likely to act in a certain way, which may be what you want or what you don't want. So in games, as in life, the words that you use matter, so choose them carefully. This is Jeff Engelstein with GameTech.
Now, I would not have believed this, honestly, guys. I would not have believed that well, the first thing that he said, that the major play, that momentum does not exist. It just seems, in movies, right? You're losing.
It seems like it.
You're losing.
Yeah.
And suddenly something happens, and then you win the rest of the game. I mean, he has proof, and he's scientific.
Right.
But I still think he's wrong. I know he's not wrong, right? But I think he's wrong. I don't know how to explain this. It just feels wrong.
I think what he's saying though is that the play, the win itself, or the scoring of the point itself, does not beget the winning streak. and in those movies, there's usually some motivational speech, or there's somebody in the stands that they haven't seen forever and they wave and, oh, now I have to, make the saving play for them or whatever it is. But the study is saying it doesn't matter the number of goals. It's the exact, if you make a goal, it's the exact same odds of you making the next goal as it was before you made the goal.
Right. Well, what you remember is the streak that turns it around. Like the team is trailing, and then they have some big play, and then they go on a streak and score, and take the lead. And you remember those because it's unusual, but just as often, the team is losing, they get a good score, but then the other team comes back and scores again. And that happens probably more often than the huge streak that everyone remembers.
Yep.
All right. I still think he's wrong, Jeff. I don't know, but I know you're right. This really bugs me to know I'm wrong, but feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think you're both right. I think that study was incredibly specific.
Ooh. Okay.
That's what I think.
I'll grasp at that straw.
Yeah. That's your go-to answer from here on out. I think that study sounded too specific. I think I'm still right.
Yes. All right, let's get to some questions.
Tom.
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 Hi, Tom.
How many meeples tall are you?
How many game pieces have you broken with that gavel you use?
If you could eat at a restaurant based on any game, what would it be?
And now, the Dice Tower will authoritatively, definitely, possibly, maybe, answer your questions.
Tom, which way to the game library?
Hey, it's question time. Our first question is from Bryant, and he says, actually, it's more of a comment
really.
than not.
Yeah.
So basically, what happened, folks, was at Origins, I talked to Renegade Games, and they said that they had wanted to release a game at GenCon with no, buzz upward to it, and just kind of have a new game there. Fantasy Flight has done it before. They did it this year, too, with Twilight Imperium. And they said they want to do this, and I said I would love to see this game before you do that, and they showed it to me. It was Clank in Space, and I was excited.
You're not saying it right, Tom. It's Clank in Space.
You're correct, Eric.
You have to say it right.
Sorry, I was cutting out the pigs for shortness. But yes, that's correct. It does have 2 exclamation points in it. And so I asked if I could review it and post it the same day that it went live at GenCon, and they said yes. Well, as I found out, many other reviewers were also doing it. But those reviewers were kind of teasing it ahead of time, like, there's a game that's really exciting and it's coming along and la 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 la. And so when the game was announced, Renegade themselves had done a big promotion and saying something's coming. The excitement at the convention was very high. People came and bought it. It sold out in minutes every day. The excitement online was quite opposite. People got very angry. They said they were looking for something else. They said a lot of mean things about the reviewers, including us, people who did not hype it. Dice Tower did not hype it. That's fine, though. But some reviewers got really upset over it. And Brian here says he was unhappy. He found that board gamers aren't any better, classier than other hobbyists that are often frowned upon, like Magic or video gamers. And he was overwhelmed by the petty, rude comments by so many today. I was embarrassed for the hobby. Yeah, so my thing to this, Brian, is I don't think you need to worry so much about this. The internet is a mean and dark place. If I'm ever feeling good about myself, I can go read the board game forums at Reddit, or as I've now found out today, even worse, the Board Game Geek Facebook page. People there are just mean to be mean. But the good news is, not all of them are mean. I don't worry so much about it. I mean, compared to video games, board games are a walk in the park. I really enjoyed just coming back from Gen Con because the positive reactions that people have to your face are so marvelous. I had one of the biggest jerks online come up and have a pleasant conversation with me. I didn't realize it was him, or I would have actually brought up those conversations online until afterwards. He's like, "Hey, it was good to see you at Gen Con." I was like, "Oh, that was you." I missed my chance. But really,
that's why BoardGameGeek.con does your avatars on your badges so that you can't hide that way.
No, but I knew this person's name, but there was just so many people. Gen Con, whatever. There's just so many people. But the fact is that people are really nice in person. And online, even though it seems like everyone's being mean and nasty and ugly, it's really only a few people. Sometimes you look and be like, there's 20 negative comments. Yeah, 2 people made them. So you really got to keep that in mind. And so I don't think the board gaming hobby is that bad after all. I think for the most part, Jack Fassel Memorial Fund, helping people out in time of need. There's so many amazing good things about it that, yes, sometimes you just want to not read the internet anymore. And I went and I might have shouted about it a little bit today, actually, at the Dice Tower Studios. But overall, people are wonderful, generous folks in the board gaming hobby. You guys disagree? Agree?
I think that what you're saying is true. I think we have a really remarkable industry, and I think that our industry is not unique in the phenomena of anonymity and the internet creating pretty awful situations. I think also that we're really lucky because we're in a passion industry. That's what I think. People are super passionate about what we do, and people who get passionate can also get a little nutty. And as a publisher and someone who has had some presence online, not much, but running Kickstarters and things like that, it's easy to sink in to that commentary. And when you go to a show like GenCon and you get to actually see people's faces, and multiple people actually at GenCon this year said to me personally, thank you for shipping me my copy of the game or whatever, it kind of makes it worth it. And one positive smile from an actual human being can wipe away a lot of that internet negativity for me.
In this specific instance, I think this goes to show how difficult it is to maintain hype and promote a game, because Renegade was pretty much doing what they needed to do to promo their new game. They had a game they were excited about, and they got it out to reviewers. They sort of teased things. It's just that the hype almost got too big, and then, a variant version of Clank, which is a great game, just wasn't able to meet that level of excitement. It's so hard to control that and to keep the hype at the proper level for the thing you're trying to hype. That's hard.
I think once you put something out into the internet, it's impossible to control what's going to happen after that, mostly. I mean, you can attempt, but it's really hard to manage it after that. I also think with so many titles coming out, a smaller studio like Renegade being able to get that much space was actually pretty remarkable.
So Thomas is trying to reduce his game collection. First, he's trying to play everything in the collection once. He's still working on that, but rating them and then getting rid of everything that's a 5 or lower and even some of the 6s in the collection. But that method is starting to reach the end of its usefulness, and so he's looking for another way to start deciding what games to get rid of. So things he's heard of, having only the best game of a particular type, like a deck builder or area majority. We often hear this as the Jones theory after Cody Jones. From Game On, we still remember you. Put similar games near each other, and then if you know you're always passing over the same game to get to the one next to it, then that's the one you should get rid of. Remove games that your board game club or your local library has in their collection. But so far, those aren't really working for Thomas, and he's looking for other ideas because he knows that, like in Tom's collection, he's even getting rid of the games he really likes. And even those great games are leaving. So Tom is an expert at culling. The only thing that I can think of is thinking about the footprint of a game. How much space it not only takes up on the shelf, but on the table. And then this is where your gaming personality comes in, because you might want the blinged out, super miniaturized game, full of minis game that takes up a lot of table space and is, has paintable figurines and all sorts of bling that you can show off and really make an impression on the table. But you may also appreciate the portability of a similar game that doesn't take up as much space, that you can throw in a backpack very easily and take somewhere and maybe get to the table more easily in various circumstances. That's the only thing I've got, though.
I had a thought that if you've already culled out the duplicates that are in your local board game library, club, what have you, local store, then, and now you're down to the ones where you like everything you're looking at, but you know you have to keep going. Maybe donate some of those to that library, and then you have the option to play again. If you haven't played it in a year, donate it to them, and then if you get the bee in your bonnet to play it, you can go down there and play it. And for other people, it might be a brand new title, so they can get a chance to enjoy it too.
I really like that idea, Marie, because like one of the reasons we sometimes keep games in our collection is because this will work with certain people. Even maybe if it's not one of your favorite games, I know this is great when my family comes over, or I know this is a great idea when I have a new player. But if you donate it to the library or an active game club, then you know that other people are still going to discover it in that manner. You might not be there, but you know the game is going to be used in the way that you intended it when it was on your shelf.
Yeah, well, I don't really have a lot to add. I mean, I've talked about this a whole lot in the past. But yeah, those are really good ideas.
All right, well, Corey and his wife recently picked up Seven Wonders Duel, and they've really been enjoying it. But they've noticed a strange phenomena that's been occurring in their home. Whoever is sitting on the left is the winner of every game. They've tried it in different scenarios. So far, Corey has won 3 times and his wife twice. It's not the first mover advantage because the loser of the last game goes first in the next. And the first player has sat in both of the seats. It's not even the table because they've taken the game to their in-laws and played there. Oh, it's not a single chair. Interesting. Have you noticed any other strange phenomenon like this while playing a game? Is there a lucky chair in your group? Does the first player to go to the restroom usually lose? Or how about the person who most recently ate Chinese takeout? Do they seem to always get blocked by other players?
Huh.
If the person who got the Chinese takeout is the first person to the bathroom, that's a whole different situation.
That's a different game. That's a meta
Different
game.
thing. Yeah.
I have to say, Corey, that first of all, this question really reminds me of story problems back in school. And I was trying to find it, and then I was trying to figure out if there was a riddle in here. But I will have to say, no, I have not experienced any phenomena like this, but it is very possible that I just wasn't conscious of it because, as I pointed out earlier, I don't care so much about the winning aspect. What I'm curious about, though, is what this chair could do to the study on the psychology of momentum.
Oh, that would throw off the results. Yeah. In fact, Corey should probably charge people to sit in it. He could, bring it to his favorite sporting event. And I don't know, how much would you pay to sit in the lucky chair?
There are people who do stuff like that. They bring the same chair, they wear the same socks. It's going to happen.
Oh my gosh, you could have different skins, like chair covers for your different teams.
See, I think this is glare from a window. I think it's the positioning of the table. So, how a football team will switch sides at halftime to, counteract whatever advantage that has. This is a glare off the stove or maybe like a decorative lamp. There's something else in this room that's causing this advantage. Maybe a ticking clock that drives one person crazy.
Maybe, what's her name? The witch from Bewitched is standing outside the window and, tickling her nose at them or something.
Samantha? Why specifically
Samantha?
her?
I don't know. I just had an image in my head. I saw some episodes where she did similar things. She'd be outside somebody's window, wanting them to say something or do something, and she would just, wiggle her
That one
nose.
episode when they were playing Seven Wonders Duel? I remember that.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. What
That sounds
episode?
like a good episode. All right. Our last question is from Justin, and he says, have you ever liked a game just fine? Then someone pointed out problems the game may have, and then you didn't like it anymore. even though you never had those problems. So his example specifically is he won fast food franchise as a kid at a con. He played it, he liked it, but then someone said there were problems and he never played it since. And then another podcast started talking about it. Now he's wondering, should you play it again?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think you should let it. I've had people say, well, that game's broken. I'm like, oh, I never noticed. Okay, I'm cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people deflate my, I'll be excited about a particular game, and then I'll mention it to someone. They're like, yeah, I don't know. I found that one strategy was overpowered, and I just, never played it again. Or, it just really deflates the bubble when I'm super excited about something. And, no, terrible game.
I'm going to deflate you later on, I think.
Okay. Uh-oh.
I'm giving like futuristic stuff.
That's a really scary threat.
Well, I think Justin should play, and I think that he should just enjoy the game for what it is, because games are not just about the board that's in front of you, but it's also about the people you're playing with.
Yeah, don't let somebody get you down. If you're enjoying a game, enjoy the game.
It's like going to the movie and criticizing, like this doesn't stick to the book or whatever.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, that happens all the time. I'm very forgiving when it comes to movies, and I'll come out of a film and be like, yeah, that was great. I love that. The explosions and the car chases, and I really love the story, and they had me fooled the whole time. And then I run into somebody who says, oh, no, well, this is totally off canon, and, I figured this out from, like, the second scene. Come on, that movie's terrible. And then I feel bad for liking it.
I think that's called Facebook.
You're just down on Facebook, Tom. I get it.
I need to stay off Facebook. That's what it is. Okay. Well, anywho, let's get to the top 10.
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
Okay, so ridiculous components. This one I like, when you open a box and you're like, what? That's insane. But not always in a bad way. Sometimes it's in a bad way, but I like gimmicks. I like cool devices, cool, neat things. And sometimes you just kind of scratch your head and go, what were they thinking? Or other times you're just like so excited because it's a toy you get to play with.
Yeah.
So we're talking about ridiculous game components, and it doesn't have to be bad or good. This is neutral, I guess. I mean, mine are mostly good, I think.
I think mine are good.
Yeah. I mean, they're not necessarily necessary, but they're...
Yeah, not always.
They're definitely a talking point.
Oh, I got one that's bad. That's fine. We'll get there.
I wonder if I think I know which one it is. Well, let's get started.
Number 10.
My number 10 is the glow-in-the-dark discs from a game called Nacht der Magier. Also, there's a new one called Vampires of the Night that also uses glow-in-the-dark components. And both of these are pushing discs around, but the game is intended to be played in total darkness. And so you have to charge. With glow-in-the-dark components, you have to, charge them on a light bulb. So you have these moments you have to stand there for, 5 minutes holding the components up to a bright light, and then you can turn off all the lights, and then everything glows, and you can play it the way you're supposed to. So my number 10 is the glow-in-the-dark discs from Nacht der Magier.
My number 10 is higher on someone else's list. So we'll just keep rolling until we get to that point, and then we'll cross that bridge.
Good one.
My number 10 is chess. And I picked chess because there is so much variety and personality in the selection of a chess set, and people can spend anywhere from $5 to $10,000 and more. The one I specifically found is the War of 1812 chess set, where each side is in a longship.
Whoa.
It's pretty cool. Wait, Google it.
They're in a longship, but then when they move, do they drown?
I did not really look into the mechanics since this is a ridiculous components section.
I've been told. I'm sorry. Well, I mean, there is definitely. This is a good choice because I didn't think about the. There's so many. I see them in the stores all the time. There's Super Mario, Star Wars, There's just so many different chess sets.
Right. And you don't need them to have a theme. It's still chess.
And they're actually sometimes more confusing when they have a theme because you're like, is that the queen?
Yeah, who is that?
That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, I learned to play on an old school set. I'm making it sound like I'm a chess aficionado, and I am not. I'm terrible at it. Because chess is a game you have to care about.
Oh, okay, Eric, she's definitely come back on the show. I like this. I'm in agreement.
Number 9.
My number 9 is the Timer from Merchants of Amsterdam. This is a Dutch auction game, and it comes with this cool device that winds up and it sort of dials down a price, a little arrow that works its way down, ticks at you, and it's got a plunger that when it reaches the price that someone's willing to pay, you slap this plunger. And the one time I was able to play this game, I was told, be very gentle with the plunger. If you break the plunger, I will be very upset. So everyone just gently push it. Please do not slap it. This is not pressure luck. But it is a very distinctive component. And my number 9, the Timer from Merchants of Amsterdam.
Now, I do love me ways to roll dice. So my number 9 is the Popper from Trouble.
The Pop-O-Matic?
Now, really, if you think about it, it's so dumb. Can you not pick up dice and roll them? No, I'm going to press a little popper that will pop the dice to a different side. And it actually does a really bad job of rolling the dice. I mean, it really does. Sometimes they're so small, they barely move in there. But
right.
The thing is, I love poppers. I want a company to make like a modern day game, and it has a popper in it with an 8-sided die or something.
It means you can't lose the dice.
Well, there's that, and they don't fall on the floor.
Right.
I just don't like Trouble. I don't like it at all.
Right. Well, there was one other Pop-O-Matic game. What was it? Headache.
Oh, wow. Headache. Headache and Trouble. I'm sensing a trend here.
the Pain collection.
I got a popper here for sale, folks. Oh, you got poppers?
Right here in River City. Right here.
With a capital P. Anyway, sorry.
Well, my number 9 is the Spinner from the Game of Life.
It's amazing.
It's the most ridiculous game ever, but the Spinner makes it totally worth it. So much so that I don't know how many years later, it's got to be at least 35 years since that game came out. If you play the app on your iPad, I'm not sure about other ones, when you roll, it plays the sound of the spinner.
Yep.
It's almost similar to the Wheel of Fortune type spinning sound, right?
Yes.
That's right.
This game is 57 years old. 57.
Oh.
57. Wow. It is a satisfying sound.
Yes. There's one of the roles in newer editions of the Game of Life involves the ability to fix the spinner. Because sometimes you'd spin that thing and it would fly out. It would pop right out of the board. If that happens, there's a role that gets paid because they have to fix the spinner. It's like the IT department or the repairman or something.
That's amazing.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
I used to try to spin it so that it would lift out like a flying saucer. Man, and okay, just like the popper, someone needs to make a modern game that uses this kind of spinner.
Yeah. It is the most distinctive spinner in board gaming.
There's that sense of like the sound you can predict where it's going to land, or there's this illusion of control or something like, oh, I can tell it's gonna land on the 10, or whatever. It's a satisfying sound.
I want one.
It's possible that it should have been higher on my list now that I'm talking about it.
Number 8.
My number 8 is the scenery from Colt Express. Now, you could probably say that the train itself belongs on this list.
I considered putting the train on my list, and then I thought, no, it's not really ridiculous. It kind of fits in the game.
But they apparently had some extra room on the punch boards for once they printed all of this. And so they gave you like some rocks and a couple of cacti to put next to the train that have no gameplay use at all. Okay, well now next to the train there's some stuff. And welcome to the table, everyone.
Z complains about these every single time.
I'm just delighted that it's part of the whole tableau that you set up when playing Colt Express. The scenery is my number 8.
My number 8 is from Samurai Swords, or they're not in the reprint, actually. Or are they? No, they're not in a reprint called Ikuza, which came out later. But Samurai Swords was this big Risk-style game in Japan. But each player got a sword, a little plastic sword. These swords had diamonds on them, so you could draw a sword at the beginning, and that would tell you what the turn order was. That's pretty much all they stood for. You actually had a little foam piece, and you would set the sword in front of you. You were not supposed to have duels with fellow players with these swords, or stab their pieces, or the other player. And I'm sure no children ever did this, or me, or even adults. That's not the point. The point is these swords were amazing, and in fact, I think Ikuza didn't do as well because it did not have these swords in it. You gotta have plastic swords that you can stab fellow players with. The swords from Samurai Swords.
Well, my number 8 is a cheater because I haven't played it. I felt like I should play all of these games, and I have not played Fireball Island, but I feel like I have because it looks to me like it's pretty much just a much, much cooler version of Candyland. It's a volcano, and you roll marbles down the volcano. What's not to love about that? I don't even need to know what the mechanics are. I'll just do that all day.
Yeah, but the good news is this. Have you heard it's being reprinted?
I heard a rumor.
Okay, well, it's not a rumor. It's fact. We know this because it's on our live GenCon show. Restoration Games and Rob Daviau is spearheading a reprint of this game. Now, this was my number 10 because also it is amazing. The game is awful, but just rolling marbles down and knocking over people is amazing. And Rob is talking things like when the marble hits a spot, it might go in 2 different directions. And they're different color marbles, which will make them come down different routes on the board. And so you count up which marbles are left in the bag. But the point is, marbles are rolling and knocking people over. That's all you need to know.
Yep.
Also,
and they're hoping
Rob
to
Daviau.
increase the likelihood of that happening.
So this is a ridiculous game component, and I actually stole it from Marie's list when I saw it because I was like, how could I not have put this, especially in light of the recent news?
Indeed.
But when you put Fireball Island on the table, people will come by and go, what are you doing?
Right.
Because that looks amazing.
Yeah.
Number 7.
Number 7 for me is the Laser from Ket, the laser game. This is an abstract game where you're moving pieces around that have mirrors on them and eventually trying to hit your opponent's king piece, pharaoh piece, with the laser. Now it's an abstract. It could have been that you just simply trace the path of a quote-unquote laser. Oh, yes, I hit you. Yay. That could have happened. But no, the board has these 2 functioning lasers that you fire at the end of each player's turn. And when it hits the pharaoh, the thing lights up because it gets illuminated by this opaque piece. And it looks dramatic and exciting, and it's lasers. I like lasers. The Laser from Ket is my number 7.
My cat would play that with me.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree with Eric. Just the fact that it doesn't need to be in the game, but I can't imagine a game without it.
Right.
My number 7 is Everything from Cleopatra and the Society of Architects. This is a game from Days of Wonder. They could have just put tiles in the game, but no. There's 3-dimensional plastic obelisks and sphinxes and all sorts of plasticky goodness that's ridiculous. When you look at this game, you're like, what? This is like a pile of toys. Yeah, it is. And it's amazing. So Everything from Cleopatra and the Society of Architects.
Okay, well, my number 7 is Merchants of Araby from Daily Magic Games. I picked it because of its amazing box. The box is a wraparound board with that seals with magnets, and then the box bottom actually can lift up so that the inside is actually a game board. It's a really nice use of materials, which I really appreciate. I try to, I spend a lot of time thinking about how we can make all of the space usable on the boxes. And they did it. They knocked it out of the park, and it's a really clever use, and it looks really cool. It's a gadget. It's super fun. Check it out. Merchants of Araby.
That's really neat. I have to say, Daily Magic is starting to do some really cool stuff. And I saw this at GenCon, and I was like, oh, it looks okay. I didn't know the box opened up and became a game board.
It's really cool. Check it out. I also told them I was probably going to steal this idea from them, but I would give it a year.
Yeah, give him a head start first.
Yeah.
Number 6.
My number 6 takes the ridiculous from this list and really takes it to heart. That's the 4-head cranes from a game called Lift It, which has you having to lift objects. You can work as a pair with a partner, and you have to lift certain objects and put them in different arrangements, and you're either racing against another team or having a timer work against you. But it looks very silly. You have like this headband with a crane piece sticking out like you're a unicorn with a hook on the end of it, and you're trying to pick up pieces. It's extremely difficult and very silly. It's ridiculous, some might say. It's my number 6, the 4-head cranes from Lift It.
That's a good choice. All right, my number 6 is the rolling device from Incognito. This is some spooky-looking nun mask type thing that you need to see these different colored balls. So you shake it up and then drop it, and the balls come out and show in the front of this person. So they have these 3 colored balls sticking out of them, which show you the kind of movement that you can do that turn. It's a weird device. And really, rolling some dice would probably do the same thing, but they wouldn't creep you out as much. So Incognito with its weird rolling device. My number 6.
Well, my number 6 are the Cthulhu pawns from Unspeakable Words. Unspeakable Words is a game where you just play cards and you're trying to make words, and as you lose your Cthulhus or your sanity, essentially. Everybody starts with 5 Cthulhu pawns, and you could do that with chits or even pennies or anything, but instead they made these plastic molded Cthulhu pawns that are ridiculous, and they're adorable. And then the deluxe edition has 8 colors, including 2 glow-in-the-dark. So the Cthulhu pawns from Unspeakable Words from Playroom Entertainment.
Well, I had not played that one yet, but now I'm interested because it has these cool-looking pawns.
I know a guy.
Number 5.
My number 5 is the boulder and the closing walls from The Adventurers, which the Temple of Chak, a game very much like Indiana Jones. You're infiltrating a temple and trying to avoid traps, collect treasure along the way, and not get crushed by the things that will do so. There's a giant boulder that will chase you down a corridor, and there are walls that sort of close in on you, and there are these nice chunky plastic things really bring out the theme and draw people to the table. What are you playing? Wow. The boulder and the walls from The Adventurers, my number 5.
Yeah, they really are. And I got mine all painted too, which is really fun. My number 5 is the Camel Up Dice Chucking Machine and Rebobber. It's built this pyramid. It's a real pain in the neck to build. This cardboard thing that comes in a box. And then you put dice in it, and you press a button, and a die comes out. It's not really that necessary for this game. You could probably do this in many other ways. And yet, I will never not use it. In fact, sometimes the guys are like, do we have to use it? I'm like, we're using it. This device is in the game. You press a button and a die comes out. How cool is that? But it's kind of overwrought. But that's why it's on my list. The Camel Up Dice Pyramid Dispenser.
Is this still in your collection, Tom?
It's not. I like the game, but there's a lot of games that are similar, so I can only keep a few.
I'm curious how well it has held up, because it's got a rubber band on it. It has you're pushing a panel to make and it's a cardboard panel. And when I played this shortly after its release, it was already showing signs of strain on that cardboard panel as you push it open and closed. And I'm wondering how well it has held up to multiple plays.
Well, listeners, this is your chance to tell us.
There you go.
My number 5 is higher on someone else's list, so I will defer.
Number 4.
Let's skip Eric's number 4.
No. You knew this was going to show up. I got to play the hits here. That's Mojo Jojo's Tower from Powerpuff Girls, Mojo Jojo Attacks Townsville. It is a giant tower that is like a good foot off the ground and has a big old window, and you hurl dice through the window to knock over the Powerpuff Girl characters. Was totally unexpected when I first played this. And then you have to disassemble it. You get the joy of disassembling it to put it back in the box. It's ridiculous. It's my number 4. Mojo Jojo's Tower from Powerpuff Girls, Mojo Jojo Attacks Townsville.
I want to destroy Eric's number 4 with my number 4, but I can't, so I'll hit him with it later.
My number 4 is... it's paling, actually, because now I want to just go out and get Mojo Jojo's Tower... because it's just fun to say that.
Yeah, don't let them get to you. It's nonsense.
My number 4 is Chateau Roquefort. I actually had to be reminded. I had to call my brother. I had to use a lifeline and call my brother and say, "What's that game where you fall through the floor?" Chateau Roquefort. So it's the board is you're in a castle and you're these little mice trying to get to the cheese and they fall through the floor. It's just this clever little mechanic and it's really fun. It's a silly game. It's totally silly game, but it's fun and the mice are also very adorable. So.
This is one that's in my collection that I have not actually played with the kids yet. I think they're at the age that I don't, I suggested at times, hey guys, let's play this great game about mice and cheese. And usually something else like Viva Topo comes out instead. I need to just insist.
Let me give you a slight tip here.
Yeah.
For a brief few more years, you actually have dictatorial control on what you play.
Wait, you mean they'll listen to me?
I'm sorry. Wait, for how much longer? When did it start?
I'm just saying that if I really want to play a game, I'll be like, we're playing this game.
It's true. I should just put it down on the table and start fiddling with it. That's usually how I bring my youngest into the fold on a particular game. What's this? Can I play? Yes.
You sound like a mouse trap there, like, cling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. He sneaks into the room. Come a little closer.
Exactly.
Got you now. I think I saw this in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
The best movie ever.
Number 3.
Speaking of mouse traps, my number 3 is the trap from Mousetrap. This was also Marie's number 5. And this, I mean, we've discussed before how most kids didn't even play the game. They just assembled the contraption, which it actually works. We played this at Dice Tower Con a year ago with my family. And the kids checked it out multiple times because they had a blast. It's a silly roll and move game, for sure. But to the fact that this plastic contraption can get assembled and disassembled each time you play, and it actually does work and do everything it's supposed to do, is pretty impressive and a little bit ridiculous. The Trap from Mousetrap, my number 3.
I have to say, this... I don't even remember the mechanics of this game at all in any way, shape, or form because all I ever did was try to set off the trap. And I would put little things in there, like I would steal the pieces out of the Monopoly game and stick them in there to get trapped. I would try to find, those little trolls with the crazy hair. I would put those in there. There was one time I did try to get like a beetle and stick it in there too. But
wow.
I was a little bit more frightened of the beetle. Couldn't get it to the board.
But here's the exciting thing. I was just at the Target looking for board games for no apparent reason. And when I was there, they had, what are these machines called?
Hex bugs?
No, the Mousetrap is a machine. It's the guy who designed
Rube Goldberg device.
Yeah, Rube Goldberg. They're selling kits now of Rube Goldberg machines for you to build. That's all that Mousetrap was, right? So you just get a few of these, build them, and watch the stuff happen. I almost bought them. I didn't because of lack of money, but I thought about it, and I like that idea. I don't need the trappings of the game underneath it. Oh, we're to my number 3 now.
It's you.
My number 3 is the triple-decker setup from Star Wars Queen's Gambit. Really, everything from Star Wars Queen's Gambit is ridiculous. There's lots of plastic pieces, tanks, droids, Jedi, ships. It's craziness. But in the middle, you have the 3 floors of the palace on Naboo. And you got to be careful because they're really easy to knock over. But this 3-towered thing just sits there. It's this big centerpiece. Everyone comes around and goes, "Ooh, where can I buy that?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's out of print. Never going to come back in. You got to pay $200 for it on eBay." And then they look at you like a jerk. But it's still really cool, despite the fact that it is kind of expensive.
Well, this is on my short list for sure.
The Star Wars Queen's Gambit Naboo Palace.
My number 3 is a modern-day take on Hungry Hungry Hippos called Sticky Chameleon. It's a new game from Yellow, and essentially you have this sort of gooey thing that looks a lot like Play-Doh or something, but even stretchier, and it's sticky. And you are slapping tiles with this thing, trying to get the tiles away from other people. And you can actually like get into, battles over with this thing. It is quite ridiculous. I honestly don't know if they could have done anything else with this, but it is hilarious to watch a table full of adults slapping each other with this. Well, not each other, but slapping at the table with this thing. And the pieces will fly onto the floor, and people are still slapping it at it with this weird sticky tongue thing. It is hilarious. The sticky tongues from Sticky Chameleon.
They told when they showed this to me as a prototype a couple years ago, and I said, I don't know if I'd make a game around this. It's really funny, but it does work as a game. And we did have one guy when we were playing the game who I think wasn't trying to win, but was just trying to peg Jason in the head. But these things are amazing because you can snag it and you're like, yeah, I got it. And then someone else in midair can pull it right off your tongue.
Whoa.
It works. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Okay.
Number 2.
Number 2 is actually a miniature trend in the party game section of the hobby right now. This is a plastic device that stretches your mouth open. The game is called Mouth Off, but there are several other games that use a similar device. And you're supposed to, so you pry this thing into your face, and then you have to get your partner to understand what you're saying.
You're stretched out like this, and it's hard to talk. And so you're trying to say, like, hot air balloon. Hot air balloon.
And then you're trying to get them to guess. And so it's very silly and very ridiculous. And I'm afraid to play it because you have to sanitize the components each time. But it is ridiculous for sure. The dental guards, or whatever they're called, from Mouth Off, my number 2.
I invented this game.
Did you?
I did. I was like 4.
Oh,
and
I was about to say some really nasty stuff about the game, and then I was like, I can't because she invented it. But now I think I can still.
Yeah, but I want to tell you how I invented this when I was 4. Because I remember like talking to my dad with my lips closed, but letting and being absolutely convinced because I could hear the words in my own ears. That my dad could also understand me. And I got really frustrated because he was pretending that he couldn't understand me.
Dads. Same guys who make their kids play games. Okay, well, here's the thing. This dental guard thing, I hate it. I hate them all. And it's hilarious to me. I was at Target, different day, still looking for games.
Yep.
And looking at the games on the shelf, and there's the exact same game.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3
companies. Yeah, somewhat. It's disgusting. It's disgusting, and it's disgusting to think about. It's disgusting to watch, and it's not that funny.
I don't know. I think it's pretty funny.
You're wrong. I just want to point it out.
I that's the best laugh I've had in a while, listening to him try to say hot air balloon. So I don't know. I think I'm in the funny camp here.
Wait, are you actually using one now, Eric? Did you bring one?
I'll never tell. I mean, yeah, I've got one right here.
You do not.
No, I was acting and scene.
All right. Let's go to my number 2. My number 2 are the hotels from the game Hotels. This is a game that's kind of a spin-off of Monopoly. You're driving your car around the board over and over and over again, and you buy these properties, these hotel properties, but they have multiple entrances on them. So you want to buy entrances. The more entrances you have, the more chance someone lands in your hotel and pays you. And then you also build up your hotel, so you pay money to upgrade. When someone lands in one of your entrances, they pay you more money. But these hotels were like 5-inch tall hotel buildings. You had to like assemble them all and stick them in the boxes. And there's little tiki huts. There's big skyscrapers. There's big. Oh man, I used to sit there and look at these hotels and be like, I want to go to a hotel like that someday. I have. It's called Dice Tower Con. You should come. But it was just a visual treat. The game is better than Monopoly, but it's not saying much. It was just reprinted actually a few years ago, and I believe you could find it at Target. I feel like I'm working for Target right now. But it was a pretty visually impressive thing. The hotels from Hotels.
My number 2 is the Tower and Dragon from Talisman Dragon's Tower expansion. This was my first independent foray from my brothers, who are all avid gamers, into my own collection and a crawly, bigger game. I was very young, I won't say. And I bought the complete set, and I still have it. The box is completely destroyed. But what's hilarious about this is in the center of the board, this tower gets built up in this expansion, and you get a few extra spaces. And then there's this giant plastic dragon that sits on top. It's totally useless. It has absolutely no reason to be in the game, but it's cool. It's really hard to put together. It takes like 10 or 15 minutes to put the thing together.
Wow.
And then he sits on top of the tower, but the tower over time starts to lose its structural integrity, especially under the weight of the dragon. So you often have to just put the dragon off to the side because it keeps falling off or it collapses the tower.
Well, that's sad.
But it is really cool. And I have many fond memories of playing Talisman.
I wonder how many craft projects have replaced that tower. You know, like a woodshop project to replace the tower to hold up better.
I bet you're going to find out, having just asked that question.
I would love to see some pictures.
I would too, actually. I feel like I need to blow the dust off that game and pull it back out, actually. I always call it the fantasy game of life, but much longer. Mm-hmm. But I still like it.
And finally, number 1.
Let's finish things off, from my list at least, with Tom's number 4. My number 1 is the inflatable clubs, the caveman clubs from ArgTech or UgTech, depending on which version you're looking at. You are trying to communicate with your teams in caveman language, and when they get things wrong, you get to bonk them on the head with an inflatable club. And I couldn't think of anything more ridiculous than that. It's my number 1, the inflatable clubs from ArgTech.
Eric is correct. It's ridiculous. I mean, you could just say no, you know.
You could, yes, but no.
But
you have to say, Ogungu, flap. That's great.
And you really hit them hard. And it's like,
you can.
And after the 5th time they hit you, you really want to take that club and hit them with it. Yeah, it's hilarious. But these also get popped. I got a hole in mine.
Oh, no.
Yeah, oh, no. Yeah.
I just love how the rule is the owner of the game inflates the clubs.
Speaking of that, I saw a lady at GenCon. Those big, giant inflatable things that they hang from the ceiling at certain places. Mm-hmm. She was blowing it up with her mouth.
What?
I was like, what? No, buy a machine. You're going to die. Oh, no. I get winded from blowing up like a balloon.
Oh, no.
Especially in there when it's like over 100 degrees inside.
Exactly. Yeah, folks, if you've never been to if you've only been to GenCon during normal opening hours, beforehand they don't turn the AC on. It's very warm in there.
They also definitely turn the AC off 1 millisecond after GenCon closes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number one are the spaceships from Starfarers of Catan. Easy choice for me. These are big, giant 1950s looking plastic spaceships that you were adding guns, rockets, and rings to these things to make them, to show the different upgrades they have. Again, this could have all been done on a board, but no. You have these big rocket ships. They don't fly around. They just sit in front of you. They look cool, but they also, you shake them, and at the bottom, a few colored balls will come out and show you how much movement you have, and do you have a encounter with some alien being. They're so neat. They all broke. Mayfair's first edition of this, they had to make an upgrade kit to fix them because they just consistently broke. But the second edition ones were better. Unfortunately, way out of print, also expensive to get. But man, I just love how this game looks. Those rocket ships, so cool, so unnecessary, but they added a lot of ridiculousness and coolness to the game.
I'm surprised Catan Studios has not brought this back.
Maybe the ships are just too expensive.
Maybe.
Well, my number one is it's personal. It's my copy of The Godfather. And that's because I went to Dice Tower Con for the first time this year, and I had a lot of fun at the Jack Bassel Foundation charity auction. And I got a copy of The Godfather pre-release that had hand-painted minis from the Paint Minis class there at Dice Tower Con. So my minis were painted by the attendees of Dice Tower Con.
That's awesome. So this is Vernon and Sam's classes to paint minis, and they painted a full set.
That's right, and then added it to the auction, and I was the lucky person to get it. Wow. I fought hard for that too.
I don't know how we can compete with this, Eric.
No, not really.
So,
well, that seems like a good place to end it, folks. What did you say? Let's see what the People's Choice says on this regard. Number 10, they said Mechs vs. Minions. Of course, it has a lot of cool things, the inserts and everything else. Number 9.
That boss is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, it's Eric. Number 9, Leaders of Euphoria. Comes with these giant plastic guns for no reason at all. I think that might just be the Kickstarter deluxe version, though. Number 8 is Evolution. What does Evolution have that would be ridiculous?
The Brontosaurus? Like the start player token?
I guess, maybe. Number 7.
Yeah, this one surprises me.
Mousetrap.
Yeah.
Number 6, Zulkin with those big gears.
Yeah.
Number 5 is Cash and Guns.
I considered this. I mean, Cash and Guns could have been a pointing game. You could have just pointed the person you're shooting. It would have worked mechanically, but it would not nearly be as distinctive as it is.
Honestly, I played this game pointing because we weren't comfortable pointing guns at each other.
All right. Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, cool. Number 4 is Cthulhu Wars, which has some of the biggest miniatures than any game ever.
Right.
Number 3, Starfarers of Catan. Yay, people agreed with me. Number 2, Forbidden Desert, which has overproduced cool pieces in it, for sure.
The airship is pretty sweet, yeah.
Be careful when you stick that propeller on.
Yes, you'll break it.
And number 1, Camel Up. I'm surprised this was number 1.
Me too.
Wow.
I guess that device is just that ridiculous.
Huh? Maybe because you could just use a bag.
I have a question about that device. I've played this game, and I kept thinking to myself, this game really needs a spit mechanic. If that device could be a giant camel that spits the die out and like knocks other pieces off or something, that would be the best.
I can't even argue with this. This is sound logic for me.
Sounds good.
Well, folks, ridiculousness. Tell us what you think in the forums. Come join us there. Come join us on the cruise, by the way. I didn't mention it at the beginning of the show, so I'll mention it now. There's not many cabins left, and we're going to shut down booking soon. So you want to come for a week of gaming, and you get to spend time. Eric has promised anyone who comes, he will play Merchants of Venus 4 times with you.
Wait, what? I'll never sleep.
I'm there.
By the way, Eric, I got a bone to pick with you about Merchants of Venus.
Uh-oh.
This is in regards to Eric's top 100 list, which has posted by the time we post this video.
Mm-hmm.
Can't put the same game on your list twice.
It's a different game.
No.
It's a different game.
No.
There's a precedent.
What's the precedent? For example,
that I've done it before.
You were wrong again.
I've always split the two of them.
Do you get to set your own precedent? I don't.
Yes, I think so.
Is that how the law works? I feel like.
Your Honor, I did it before.
No one.
All right, this is it. Marie can come back anytime. I enjoy this. Two tag teaming Eric here.
Oh man!
Unfortunately, folks, we do have to end this, but we do appreciate you listening. Marie, thanks so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
So anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
Oh, and I'm Marie Poole.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode number 520 was recorded on August 24th, 2017. Coming up next week, Mandy and Suzanne debut their new Tap That App segment. Support for this podcast comes from listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. Find out more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, me, Mandy, and Suzanne, with production assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, and Rob Seary. Our theme was composed by Timothy Pinkham. Our pepper spray is provided by Fire Eyeball Land. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. We love feedback. Visit the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com. Email us at Dicetower@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook. And of course, you can find more from the Dice Tower Network, including Board Gamers Anonymous, Board Game Corner, the Push Your Luck podcast, Rolling Dice and Taking Names, the Geek All-Stars, Dukes of Dice, Our Turn, and Board Game Breakfast at Dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. So, Tom, don't tell me you haven't come up with a whole bunch of uses in your video reviews for those sticky chameleon tongues.
I should have kept them.
No. Oh my gosh, what if you don't like what somebody says? You're just like,
The next live playthrough, these should make an appearance.
That's hilarious.
Just stuck to Sam's nose on the other side of the table.
I'm thinking about it.